Hi everyone, Radhe Radhe. In this video, we're going to be doing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5. I got that right in the first try. It's a little bit of a tongue twister because I'm so used to doing the Bhagavad Gita and I've started this new thing, so it's still getting used to saying Srimad Bhagavatam instead of Bhagavad Gita. But cool. Okay, so let's call out to Bhagwan Shri Krishna. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Dear Bhagwan Shri Krishna, the Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very dear to you. Please help us understand it. And anybody who listens to the Srimad Bhagavatam finds their way to you. So please help us use this and help us find our way to you. This is sweetness of so Bhagavad Gita is the basic, and this one is basic philosophical text, and this one is a more sweet text. So please help us absorb the sweetness of this text so that we can find our way to you. Okay, so let us read the texts. There we go, and there we go, and there we go, and there we go. Okay. Chapter 5. Narad's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. Text 1. Suta Goswami said, Thus the sage amongst the gods, Narad, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishis amongst brahmanas, Vyasadeva. So Narad addressed Vyasadeva. Text 2. So Vyasadeva was saying basically in the previous things, I'm not happy, I've written all of this stuff, I've written all of the Vedas, but I'm not happy, I'm not satisfied. So now Narad is saying to Vyasadeva, text 2. Addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parashar, Narad inquired, Are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization? Identifying with the body or mind as objects of self-realization. How can you be self-realized by identifying with the body or mind? Text 3. Your inquiries were full and your studies were also well fulfilled, and there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained. Okay. Mahabharata, basically. Text 4. You have fully delineated the subject impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of this, thinking that you're undone, my dear Prabhu? My dear Prabhu. Okay, so he's talked about the Mahabharata and he's talked about impersonal Brahman. Text 5. Sri Vyasadeva said, All you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all of this, I am not pacified. Therefore, I question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction, for you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of one Brahma who is self-born without mundane father and mother. Brahma was born without parents. Text 6. My lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. So you know everything, please help me. Text 7. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows. Please help me, basically. Text 8. Sri Narad said, You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of God. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. Okay, so if you are not pleasing the Lord, and it's not just pleasing the Lord, it's pleasing the transcendental senses, pleasing the senses of the Lord, that is worthless. Text 9. Although great sage, you have broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva. Although you have described the four principles beginning with religious I wonder what these principles are. He might explain it in the commentary. But you have not described the glories of Vasudev. Text 10. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. Text 11. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc. of unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Honest is the word here. Okay. So when we are talking, when we're glorifying God, when we're glorifying Krishna, even if they are imperfect, they are accepted by pure people who are thoroughly honest. Honest is an important word here, I guess. Text 12. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities, which is what the Vedas have talked about, which Vyasadeva has written, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they're not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? Yeah. So if you do karma kand, what is the point? You're not doing. I mean, yeah, you're staying within the universe, and you're not. You're going to swarg by doing good deeds. You're getting good karma, which is keeping you stuck in the material world, and you're not utilizing it for devotional service of the Lord. Text 13. O Vyasadev, your perfect vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness, and thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general, for all material bondage. So he's saying that think of the pastimes of the Lord, and you can do it. You have a perfect vision, you can do it. Text 14. Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different names, forms, and results to agitate the mind as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. Whatever you desire to describe that's separate from the Lord is basically agitating. Text 15, the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you've encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. Oof. Harsh. That's the karma kand thing. Basically, you do tapasya, you do yajna, and to the demigods, and you will get results. That is verily condemned, and it's quite unreasonable. He's like, what you've written is condemned and unreasonable. Ouch. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion, and they will hardly care for prohibitions. Text 16. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through the descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. Okay, so expert personality retired from material happiness. Yeah, how do you retire from material happiness? Oof. Deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. I guess the way we do that is by reading this Bhagavatam, which we're doing right now. So that's how we do it. We listen to Hari Katha, we read the Bhagavatam, and we chant. And that's how we do. And we associate with devotees. Oh, there was a very harsh. Okay, I'll talk about it if I remember. I hope I remember at the end of this. There is this thing that has kind of triggered me a little bit, but now I'm starting to not get so triggered by that, and that is the focus on not associating with non-devotees. And in the beginning, I was like, what? This is like very cultish. I mean, how are you going to, you're just keeping your mind completely focused. How are you going to learn about other things? But I think in the beginning you do need to open your mind and you need to explore, and then eventually you will come to this thing that, okay, this is my only path. And once you've chosen this as your only path, then if you're looking, yeah, I will not talk about it at the end, I'm talking about it now. Once you've chosen this as your only path, then you need to fully focus. In the beginning you want to explore, right? You don't want to just associate with this, because that's what I did when I was doing the Bhagavad Gita, and that was just 2 years ago. I was reading all the impersonal books as well as the personal books, and I was reading everything. I was exploring. I was like, I don't know yet what my path is going to be. And then over time I was very, very clear that this is my path. And now I feel it, like when I'm talking to non-devotees, or not just talking, like, they say that you should give them your association but not take their association, which means that you can talk to them about your Krishna conscious world, but if you take their association, means if you start to feel some kind of shelter in them, then your consciousness goes down. And I actually felt it. This is so strange, but I spent time with a friend on Thursday and on Sunday, non-devotee friend, and I started to feel like I'm losing Krishna from my life. I started to feel like that. I was panicking a little bit. I was like, what is going on? And then something happened, and like I was turned off a little bit, and I decided to cut. And the moment I decided to cut, I started to feel the. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but it was very strange. But yeah, it's amazing how things work sometimes. Whew, okay. Retired from material manufacturers. Those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Lord. So Bhagavatam is all about talking about these name, forms, pastimes, and all that of the Lord, so that it engages us in that. Text 17. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Okay, so, okay. Text 18. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patal. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them. So there are 14 lokas. Brahmaloka is the top and Patal is the bottom, and we're number 7. We're on this thing called Bhurlok, and on Bhurlok there is earth, which is a tiny. Bhurlok is huge, it's a disc, and actually I might have it open here. Yeah, there you go. So Bhurlok here is Brahmalok, here is Satyalok, which is number 1, and Patal is at the bottom. There are 8 discs here. Bhurlok is the topmost disc, and these other planetary systems are just these things. They're not discs, they're just whatever they are. And Bhurlok is this disc, and Earth is this tiny little thing here, tiny little sphere. In this, you see this blue thing, so in there is a tiny little sphere. There's Mount Sumeru there, and so Bhurlok is Earth is there. So what are we doing? Yeah, so a person who is intelligent can wander from Brahmalok to Patal, and they will not be able to understand it. So as far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment, it can be obtained. Sense enjoyment, happiness will happen in time, just as miseries will happen in time. So yeah, an intelligent person does not get bogged down by happiness or distress. Text 19. My dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or the other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers, etc., because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. So even if a person falls down, they will not lose things, apparently. That's very encouraging to know. But I mean, relishing the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord is a very high, tall order, right? Text 20. Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is himself this cosmos and is still aloof from it. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated, in him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have only given a synopsis. So he's like, you know what I'm talking about, so I'm just giving you a very brief thing. Text 21, your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the Supreme Personality of Godhead because you're present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please therefore describe the transcendental pastimes of Krishna more vividly. Text 22. Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerity, study of Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, and charity, culminates in transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry. So all advancement of knowledge is supposed to end in description, transcendental descriptions of Krishna. Text 23. O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. I've heard this story, but I've forgotten it, how Narad was born, but I thought he just said ki Narad was the son of Brahma, so I'm confused. When they were living together, during the 4 months of rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. So he was the son of a maid servant and he was serving the Brahmanas, and that's how he got knowledge from them. Text 24. Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty and I did not speak more than required. He was a good boy. Text 25. Only by their permission I took remnants of their food, and by doing so all my sins were at once eradicated. Wow. Wouldn't that be amazing? Thus being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time the very nature of transcendentalist became attractive to me. Okay. That would be nice. Text 26. O Vyastev, in that association and by mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna. And thus, listening attentively, my taste for hearing about God increased at every step. So they were talking about the attractive activities of Krishna, and Narad Muni heard them. Text 27. O sage, as soon as I got a taste of God, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. As my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental. Text 28. Thus 2 seasons, rainy and autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great soul sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the mode of passion and ignorance vanished. Okay, so when we do this kind of thing, when we're doing this katha, the coverings of the mode of passion and ignorance are vanished. Not goodness, but passion and ignorance. So you're still covered by the mode of goodness, but passion and ignorance are vanished. As the flow of devotional service began, how? By hearing great soul sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of Lord Hari. So that's what we want to do, is we want to hear great soul sages chant the glories of Lord Hari. So we find whoever the great soul sages are and we listen to their tapes. Text 29. I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses and I was strictly following them with body and mind. So I've been thinking a lot about service lately, the last few months. And yes, we want to serve the devotees as much as we can, and we want to serve people. And we are also needing to keep boundaries because we get taken advantage of in this material world. So when we find great sages and we serve them with everything that we've got, then we're not taken advantage of, because what they will do, the great sages will do, is they will take us, they will give us their mercy, our gurus, and they will take us across the ocean of material existence. So it depends. So the service that we're doing also, we want to get to this place of amanina manadena, where we're just doing service and we're not expecting anything. And we're serving the devotees, and our joy comes from serving the devotees. Yeah, I'm still struggling with that, because people do take advantage, and yeah, I have given and given and given and given and given, and then suddenly I started feeling resentful because there was nothing coming back, not even like, I mean, in fact, not just nothing, but there was like um, no gratitude or appreciation, and yeah, and I've started to feel resentful. So I'm still trying to figure that out, because that's unconditional service, unconditional love is difficult in this material world. But when we follow great sages, and when we're following them because they themselves have this attitude of service, right, of devotional service, wanting to serve, then our faith in that service also increases. And when we're serving them, then we don't feel this thing, and they are helping us like cross the ocean of material. So there's nothing better. I mean, there's what bigger gift can there be, right? What bigger gift can there be? And if somebody is giving you that kind of gift, why would you not want to serve them with everything you've got? Okay, text 30. As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who were very kind to poor hearted souls, instructed me that the most confidential subject which is instructed by God Himself. Text 31. By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Shri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing that, one can return to Him and meet Him. Okay, so they gave him this instruction, confidential instruction, instructed by God Himself, and so he understood the influence of the energy of Krishna, and then he can return to him once you know that. O Brahmana Vyasdev, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of Krishna. Dedicate one's activities to the service of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Text 33. O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Like the vaccine, I guess. Text 34. Thus, when all a man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. Okay. There's a tree of work apparently somewhere. So when we dedicate all of our activities to the Lord, those activities that caused us bondage become the destroyer of that bondage. Text 35. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes concomitant factor. Whatever work is done here for God is called Bhakti Yoga. Text 36. While performing duties according to the order of Krishna Bhagwan, one constantly remembers him, his names and qualities. To text 37. Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva along with his plenary expansions, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. I don't know who these are. Text 38. Thus he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, then with his intimate loving service. Text 40. Therefore, please describe the Lord's activities which you have learned in your by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. So basically, talk about the Lord's activities and pastimes and form and name and all of that, glorify the Lord, please his senses, and it will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men and mitigate miseries of the common people. There is no other way to get out of these miseries. Okay, so that's it for this one. We'll do Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6 in the next video. Wish you a day filled with lots and lots of spiritual growth and lots of connection with Krishna. Radhe Radhe.